Well, everyone, the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra is one of those devices that I think is probably going to hold up as one of the more interesting phones from Samsung. I thought it was a very, very good device that probably could last forever. But it's funny because the hardware of this phone, it's a classic case that I've talked about so many times. The hardware of this phone is better than the software longevity of this phone. And even 5 years from now, the hardware of this phone, like if you just took out the internals of this phone and put in the latest internals like 5 years from now, you are still going to have an excellent phone that's going to hold up so well. Case in point, if you take a look at the Samsung Galaxy S8, that phone's like several years old, 7 years old now. That phone, you can tell it's going to be an outdated phone, probably even like 3 years ago, even if you put the latest internals in it. The Note 20 Ultra, on the other hand, not so much. I thought Samsung did a great job. I still like this phone a lot, but there's a couple of reasons why I don't think this is probably the phone for you, and I'll talk about that throughout this video. Now, if you want to buy some phones I would recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside of the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, this particular phone on the front has a 6.9-inch dynamic AMOLED display. Now, the thing I like a lot about this particular phone is its panel. It's a very good panel, probably one of the best, if not the best, panel we've ever seen on a Samsung Galaxy Note series, and it was top of the line. It holds up very well even against the S23 Ultra. It's probably going to hold up well against the S24 Ultra as well. Very, very thin bezels, pretty much no bezel around it, to be completely honest. Curved display at that as well, which was so beautiful, and it was a really good looking panel, and it was 120 Hz as well. That was another really big advantage for this type of phone. So personally for me, that was probably one of the biggest advantages for this phone, and that was something I liked about this phone a lot. Now on the bottom, you're getting that USB Type-C port, which is great. Having USB-C is amazing and something I still like a lot from these particular panels. You're getting the S Pen as well, which is very nice. An S Pen is basically that stylus that you have on this type of phone. And once again, that's a very cool thing and a very cool advantage that you have on this type of device, that you can easily go just, have a stylus whenever you want to. And once again, that in and of itself was a very, very cool thing as well. Now, another big advantage for this phone was the microSD card slot. We actually did have that microSD card slot on this phone, which was so cool. Now, again, it's not like the craziest thing in the world. It's not like you need it, anymore that much, to be honest. But at that time, it was a very cool advantage. And that was something I actually liked a lot of having within this phone, was having that microSD card slot, which was amazing. On the backside, frosted glass back, triple camera setup, wireless charging, reverse wireless charging. And like I mentioned before, and I say this all the time, Samsung did such a good job with this phone that I'm surprised they never kept making more Note phones. Like, I feel like you could have just kept going on and on with this phone, and that's just one of the things that kind of happened with it. I think Samsung knocked that park. I think it's great, and I still think it holds up very, very well from an exterior standpoint, without a doubt. So from that standpoint, that kind of covers it up there. Now in other areas, like with the camera, it's still a very good, decent camera as well, which is so surprising because you'd never think a phone that's like that came out in 2020, that's 4 years old now almost, holds up this well, but it really does. You were getting a 108 megapixel wide-angle lens, 12 megapixel periscope telephoto lens, and then a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera as well. And on the front, you were even getting that 10 megapixel wide-angle lens. Now, the thing I like a lot about this particular camera is that you were basically getting the same type of camera hardware that you're basically getting on the current phones as well. So you're still getting that wide ultra-wide telephoto lens, which is basically one of the more important types of hardware to have on a type of device like this. So you're getting the type of camera array that a lot of other new phones basically have too, which is good. But you're still getting 8K video resolution on the back that you can film in, and 4K at 60 on the front that you can film in as well. This is without a doubt a very big asset for this type of device. And once again, when you are getting a phone like this, you're basically getting a device that can still hold up very well from that camera standpoint. Again, it's not perfect, and it probably wouldn't be a reason why I would buy this phone, to be completely fair, but I think Samsung did a great job with this camera at that time. And if you still need to have a camera in this day and age that you need to use in a pinch for something, this is a very good option. The only thing that maybe I would look out for is the fact that this is a little bit of an older phone. So the software, you're not really going to be getting the best version of software updates from that particular standpoint. So no new camera features, but still a good camera, hardware-wise. Now, this does kind of directly take me into that software side of things that I was talking about just like 1 second ago. The problem, I would say, with the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra is the fact that there's no more software updates really coming out for this phone. We're not really getting our next Android updates. So when One UI 6 comes out, One UI 7, One UI 8, we're not really getting those next generation of software updates or next generation of features on these particular phones, which is kind of an issue, I would say, because you don't want to just go ahead and have a phone and buy a phone if you're not really going to be able to, get software updates coming out for this thing, which can be a problem for a lot of people. So I don't think you want to go ahead and buy a phone if you're not going to be able to go ahead and have updates for it anymore. And that is exactly what's going on here. That's exactly the problem. So as of right now, what I would definitely tell you is with a phone like the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, the biggest problem I could tell you is that it's no longer getting software updates. Now, can you go through and kind of avoid this, or is there a way you can kind of not have this be that big of a problem? There's really nothing you can do. Like, you're still getting some security updates. So if it kind of makes you feel a little bit better, you're still getting some like One UI, I think 4 security updates, which is good. Like, it's good enough. But like I said, if you want the latest and greatest, if you want the most amount of updates for a phone, this is really not going to be it. And you're already kind of outdated when you're buying this phone. So that's kind of what I say when you're getting a device like this. You're already outdated, and I probably wouldn't recommend buying this phone because of the software side. Performance-wise though, this phone also isn't really that bad still from a performance side perspective. I will say though, a lot of development has been done within the hardware side of these phones, chipset wise, everything wise. So from a performance side, you're getting that Snapdragon 865 chipset with 8 gigs of RAM on the base model, but it does go up to 12 gigabytes of RAM. Now, the thing I like a lot about this particular phone is that you can spec it out to 12 gigabytes of RAM, which is an insane amount of RAM to have inside of a device like this. You don't really need to have, 12 gigs of inside of a phone, especially at this age, but it's still a really nice advantage that you have in this type of device, which is very, very cool. Now, another thing is that with the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, this is a phone that you're still, able to get really good speeds from. So if you're, doing basic things like phone calls and that kind of stuff, this is going to be more than enough probably for a vast majority of people. But a very cool thing is that with the Note 20 Ultra, this is a phone that's going to be holding up very well from a RAM perspective, which is incredible. That in and of itself is a really cool thing, and that's something I appreciate a lot from this type of device. The problem is that, like I said, on the Snapdragon side, there's been so much development, and now that we're at the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 chipsets, those are very, very good chipsets to have inside of a device, and I think that in and of itself kind of makes this phone not necessarily feel like an outdated phone, but it definitely feels like, you're going to be missing out on some of the cooler advantages that you have on some of the latest generation of devices. So once again, kind of keep that in mind, but I still think you're getting a very good performing phone or a decent performing phone from this particular device from that specific perspective. Battery life wise, this was also another pretty cool thing going on for this phone. So at the time it had a 4500 mAh battery, but over time, batteries degrade and everything, so it's kind of understandable. But this was honestly genuinely a pretty good battery life and battery size at the time, which again is very cool because you're able to get a very good sized phone, a very big sized phone from this type of device, which is genuinely very nice. So overall, what I'll definitely tell you is I definitely do think a phone like the Samsung Galaxy Note 20 Ultra is a very good phone. However, the only issue I have with it is its software updates, and that is kind of the problem that I have with this type of device. I would love for this phone to continue getting software support forever. And again, like I said, this is a classic case. If you just put in a newer chipset and you just kind of put some other stuff some software updates here and there, maybe a little bit longer, then this phone would 100% be worth buying in every single way. Unfortunately, I just don't know if this is a phone I'd recommend buying because of the lack of software updates. Everything else with this phone is fine. It's really just the software updates that kind of throw me off on this device. So from that specific perspective, that kind of covers it up right there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.